Hi, this is Majnu. First of all, I would like to thank you for your positive comments on the previous video entitled "This is how to improve your chess." This gave me the idea of making a second video because many of you replied that you found this very useful, and it is a very good training method, this guess the move system, or also called solitary chess. So we're going to do this again now with another game, another Grandmaster game. This is the game between the French Grandmaster Joël Lautier, rated 2645, and he's playing against Anatoly Karpov. The game was played in Dortmund 1993. Now let's have a look at the moves, because we are going to replay the game until we reach a moment in the middle game, so we can start to think for ourselves. Okay, so this is an English opening. Yep, knight to d5. Alright, he advances the pawn, the knight goes to h4, so he's probably going to f5 later. Bishop g2, castle, castle, d6, d3 now to get rid of this pawn on, yeah. Okay, so white retakes with the queen. That's interesting. He's controlling this f5 square very well, preventing bishop to f5 and wanting to place knight to f5 probably. Let's have a look what happened later. Queen is under attack, queen to c2, and now a trade there. Okay. White is, yes, placing his bishop on b2. a5, a3. Okay, a3 is probably meant to answer a4 with b4. Knight g6, take. Or perhaps this is a good moment to start our exercise. We have finished the opening and we have a position there where we can start making a plan, and so we are going to guess from now on each next move of white. Well, first of all, what I see here is this beautiful dark squared bishop on b2, directed to g7. Black has pressure against the e2 pawn. It's actually threatening to take now on e2, so we should do something about that perhaps. First thought that I have now is to move the rook from a1 to e1, and then perhaps playing e4 and even e5 perhaps later. Also, this bishop on c5 is placed looking at f2, and I think that this has two sides. On one hand, it's placed on a very attacking position. On the other hand, if we can increase the pressure against g7, this bishop will not participate in the defense. So that's interesting. Now also black is threatening, perhaps. No, this is not a threat. Bishop to f5, because we can play e4. Okay, so that's why perhaps rook to e1 is necessary. If we play rook to e1, bishop to f5, can we play e4? Yes, it's enough defended. So actually two moves come into consideration: rook a1 to e1 and e2 e4 immediately. Yeah, there is no really other. I mean, bringing the other rook, the f rook to e1, would be a mistake because of the weakness on f2, I think. So one of those two moves, rook a to e1 or e4. Let's make a choice. Personally, I like, and that's, well, perhaps it tells something about my playing style, I like to prepare actions, so to bring all the pieces into activity before attacking. So I would play here rook a to e1. Yes, that's my choice. I play rook a to e1. So let's have a look now. Okay, e4 was played. So our French Grandmaster plays e4 immediately. Let's see the reply of black. g5. So perhaps he was thinking that white wanted to play something like king to h1 and f4. I don't know. g5. Well, we can still continue with rook a to e1. That is actually a very natural move in this position, rook a to e1, to support the e4 pawn even more, eventually advance it to e5, and we would then be using this principle of improving the position of our worst piece. Now this moment the worst piece of white is the rook on a1 because it's very passive. So by placing it on e1 we would be improving our position a bit. That's something that I believe Karpov himself once said, that when he thinks about a move he asks himself, how does this move improve my position? Well, enough talking. I'll choose now one more time rook a to e1. So let's have a look now what happened. Yes, it was played by Loche. Counter move f6. Alright, so he's preventing e5. Preventing e5. He's at the same time also weakening a bit g6, but our bishop is not directed to g6, so we need to make a plan, a good plan here. Now advancing e5 is nonsense, so perhaps we can return to the idea that I had when he played g5. I had the idea he's probably preventing f4. So the idea is to play king to h1 followed by f4. Another idea could be to play queen to e2 and queen to h5. Is there anything there? He always has queen to f7 as a immediate defense. Yeah, so I think we should try to play f4 in this position. So king to h1, f4. Yeah, okay, let's make a decision. That's what I'll do. I'll play king to h1. Let's see what happened in the game. Yes, king to h1. So black plays now g4. Alright, so the next move should be now f4 or f3. If we play f4 and black doesn't take en passant, g4 takes f3, then we have a nice couple of pawns here on e4 and f4, so eventually playing e5 later is possible. Yeah, I think I would do yeah, f4. Yes, alright, that's my next move, f4. Yes, it is played in the game. Now let's see what black does. He does take. Okay, so how do we retake, with the rook or with the bishop? With the rook is interesting because then we can play perhaps a rook to e3. No, it's not possible. The bishop, black bishop, is covering e3. If we take with the bishop, then perhaps bishop to h3 can be a bit annoying. Actually, we help him then to develop his pieces, winning a tempo. So let's see, bishop takes f3, bishop h3, bishop to g2, bishop takes, king takes, and we both have a dark square bishop. Now I find my bishop, well, since he played f6, this is not really a very strong piece anymore. So the question is rook takes f3 or bishop takes f3. I would go for rook takes f3, I think, because of this bishop h3 idea. And besides that, we will have a half open f-file, and then I don't want this bishop blocking the rook on this half open f-file. So, well, yeah, I'll go for rook takes f3. That's my choice. Let's have a look now at the game at the move played. It is rook takes f3. Now what did black reply? Bishop to d7. Okay, so now how to continue? Perhaps we could play rook e1 to f1 is not possible because e4 is hanging. So now I'm realizing how good actually this c5 bishop is placed, controlling e3 and f2. And those are two squares that we would like to have in our hands. Let's see, queen d2, queen f4, or h3 followed by g4 and g5. Perhaps a combination of that. Queen to d2 and then h3, g4. So queen to d2. He can't advance the f pawn, he can't take on e4. This rook is passive. So if we look at piece activity, we already have, I think, a bit better position than black. Yeah, I would go for queen to d2, I think. Queen d2 with the idea of playing h3 and g4, or perhaps queen d2, queen f4 followed by g4 and g5. Yeah, well, we'll see later if this is correct or not. But I think we need to find play here on the king side, on this half open file. So queen to d2, that's I think the most logical idea. Yeah, that's my move, queen to d2. Let's see what white did. No, I didn't. Rook to f4. Rook to f4. Perhaps white wants to play rook to h4 in combination with queen to e2 and queen to h5 to use the h file to attack. That's interesting. Well, let's see the counter move. Rook to f8. So there is now less pressure on e4. Should we play now rook to h4 or perhaps queen to e2 first? Queen to e2 with the idea of rook to h4 and queen to h5. Or should we prepare the action by moving rook to f1 first, increasing the pressure on f6 and let's see, if we play queen to e2 and he plays f5, is that dangerous? No, then g7 becomes perhaps a possible target later. Okay, let's make a decision now. Yeah, I'll go for queen to e2. Let's bring more pieces into the attack on the king side. Okay, queen to e2. Let's see what happened. The preparing move. Rook to f1. Okay, let's see what black did. Alright, bishop to e3. So perhaps queen to e2 was better. I'm not sure, but this is It would prevent also bishop to e3. Let's see. Now what do we do? The rook is under attack. If we play a rook to h4 now, then bishop to g5 is a strong move, winning the exchange. So we actually don't have much choice. I think we have to play rook to f3, back to f3. Because rook h4, then bishop g5 wins the exchange, right? If let's see, we have rook to h5 still, but then this bishop goes to g4, then the rook is trapped. Yeah. So I'm not very happy with this continuation. Well, later I'll after the game I'm going to have a look at queen to e2 to see if that was a better idea, or perhaps I'm mistaken. Okay, now in this moment now I choose a rook from f4 to f3. Let's have a look. Yes, bishop to b6. So now, well, now queen to e2 makes less sense since we have lost time, and perhaps h3 and g4. Playing here h3 followed by g4. We need to try to break this open, this defense of the black king, to make this bishop strong. So advancing the g pawn is the correct plan. We cannot do it right now because it takes, so h3. Yeah, that's what I will play here. Okay, I choose for h3. Let's have a look. g4 immediately. And did black take? It didn't. Hey, what happens here? Let's go back one move. What if black would have taken, then rook to g3? Aha, yeah, it's a pawn sacrifice to open the g file. Then, so if bishop takes g4, rook to g3. Yeah, okay, let's continue. So rook to e8 played by black. Let's see, how do we continue now? With g5? No, then f takes g5. We need to play h4 perhaps first, or queen to, no, it's difficult to bring the queen to the king side now because we don't have this diagonal opened any longer. Wait a minute, there is something else here. I'm trying to use h7. If you play rook to h3, we threaten to play e5 with well, not really a mate, but a serious threat on h7. So rook h3, if black does nothing, then we can play e5 with the idea of queen to h5, check, king to f7, and then e6, almost checkmate. So this is a knight attacking pattern here. Let's see, if rook to h3 and he takes on g4, then we can play rook to h4 perhaps, attacking the bishop, and after that he could play f5. Then no, that doesn't look good for him. Oh yeah, he attacks the rook then. Okay, so my variation is rook to h3, bishop takes g4, and then not rook to h4 because of f5. So then perhaps rook to g3. So we can make use of this g file. I like this attacking idea. Yeah, I'll go for rook to h3 here. Let's have a look at the move mate in the game. It is okay. Let's see what black did. He takes on g4. Okay, so here we need to play, if we play rook to h4, then f5 follows. The queen is attacking the rook and the pawn is defending g4, so we are then in trouble with this rook. So rook to g3 looks more logical now. Rook to g3. Wait a minute. Rook to h4, f5, queen to c3. So if then black takes the rook, then we have a checkmate on g7. That's also an idea. Rook to h4, f5, queen to c3, queen to g5, defending, or what else? And if we play rook to g3, the bishop must go away from here, because if he plays f5, then we simply take on f5, right? Yeah. So yeah, rook to g3 is less difficult, actually simpler attacking move. Yeah, rook to g3, that's what I'll play here. Let's see what happened. Yes, rook to g3. Now where did the bishop go? To h5. So taking care of g6 and f7. Now we need to continue the attack. We have now two open files. Pressure on g7 and on f6. There is an undefended bishop on h5. We still need to bring more pieces into the attack. Our queen is not participating. Perhaps queen to d2, followed by queen to f4, and queen to h5, no, to h4, or queen to d2. No, queen to d2. Yeah, queen to d2 with the threat. Queen to h6. Yes, that's a very good threat, because queen to d2, if queen to h6, then this bishop will be in trouble. It cannot go to f7 because of queen takes g7 checkmate, and it cannot be defended by g6 because simply queen takes bishop. This pawn is pinned here by the rook. So queen to d2 has a very strong threat here. Queen to d2. I will play probably g5 or g6 immediately. Well, if g5, then we can play h4, and if you place g6, perhaps queen to h6 anyway, threatening to take here. Well, then there is queen to g7 as a defense, or queen to h7. Oh. Perhaps queen to d2, g6, queen to e. No, we cannot. Nonsense. But well, queen to d2 is a good move, in the sense that we are bringing one more piece into the attack on the king side. We have a direct threat to go to h6. So that's the move that I would choose here. Queen to d2. Yes. Okay. Let's have a look. Yes, it was played. And the answer of black, g6. Okay, so he's weakening these pawns on f6 and g6 now. He's also now making the queen available to defend the 7th rank. Now queen to h6 doesn't make much sense because of queen to h7, I think. Now queen to g7 probably. No, then I take on h5. So queen to h6, queen to h6, queen to h7, then f6 is hanging, right? So we can trade queens and then take on f6. Does it make sense? Or are we overlooking something? If I play queen to h6, then We are threatening to take on h5. The bishop cannot, well, the bishop cannot go away, because if it moves then we take on g6. So after queen to h6, queen to h7, queen takes h7, king takes h7, and then rook takes f6. Rook takes f6, bishop takes f6, and we get into an endgame. But it's not that clear, this endgame. So we win back a pawn, but it's not enough. I think, no, I don't like this. I don't like to go into an endgame here, since we have pressure on the position of black. Perhaps queen to f4. Queen to f4 looks better. Or rook to f4 followed by rook to h4. That's a better idea. Rook to f4 followed by rook to h4. That looks much better. Much better. That's okay, that's my choice. Rook to f4. Let's see what happens in the game. Rook to f5. Aha. Immediately threatening to take on h5, of course, and the pawn on g6 is pinned. Yeah. Okay, let's see what black did. Queen to h7. So we cannot take on h5 now. But he is leaving f6 undefended. So bishop takes f6, breaking open the defense of the black king. Bishop takes f6. Perhaps after that followed by queen to g5. Oh, this looks promising. Bishop takes f6. Now this bishop on b6 is not participating in the defense of the dark squares. Yeah, bishop takes f6. That looks so good now. That's what I would do now. Yeah, I'll choose for bishop takes f6. Let's have a look at the game. Yeah, bishop takes f6. Counter move by black is rook to f7. So now my idea was to play queen to g5, bringing more pieces into the attack. Perhaps even queen to g5 with the idea of bishop to f3. Because bishop to f3 right now, then it takes with check now. Bishop to queen to g5, bishop f3, bishop takes f3, check still. Then rook takes f3. Now, so queen to g5. The idea is to take on h5. Queen takes h5, queen takes h5, rook takes h5, then rook takes f6. We could also perhaps, let's see, is it possible to advance the e-pawn? I'm thinking about bringing also the g2 bishop into the attack by playing e5, then e5, and if d takes e5, then bishop to e4, placing this bishop on this diagonal here, pressurizing g6 even more. Perhaps threatening to take here. Queen takes, and rook takes, g6, check. Nice attacking ideas, but which one to choose? Queen to g5 or e5 immediately? If we play e5, it takes bishop e5. Oh no, wait, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I just made some calculation that if we play e5, he takes with the rook. So e5, rook takes e5. If bishop takes e5, then rook takes rook. e5, rook takes e5. If rook takes, then he recaptures. Then bishop takes e5. Then we have traded one of our attacking pieces. So perhaps queen to g5 is better. If we play queen to g5, we do threaten e5, because then rook takes e5 doesn't work because of bishop takes e5, rook takes f5, queen takes f5, and this pawn is pinned. So queen to g5 would be an idea to prepare this breakthrough. Also, if black doesn't take, then we simply advance to e6. Yeah, that's a good preparation. Okay, I'll play queen to g5 here. Let's have a look. Yes, queen to g5 played in the game. What did black did? To c6. c6. He wants to bring the bishop to c7 perhaps. If we allow that, then we cannot play e5 any longer. Or perhaps he wants to play bishop to d8 at some point. How about e5 right now? Does it work? e5 threatening e6. e5. If pawn takes e5, the idea is bishop to e4, and then he can take on d5. No, then there's bishop takes d5, pinning the rook on f7. So e5 looks very strong. I'm calculating. e5. I don't see a good defense for black. Yes, e5 looks really strong. e5 is bishop d4 or something? No, it doesn't work. We simply advance to e6. And f6 is well defended. Yeah, e5 looks really strong. I don't see any defense for black. Okay, that's what I'll choose here. e5. Let's have a look. Oh, wait a minute. If we play e5 and he takes on d5, what happens then? e5, c takes d5. Then bishop takes d5, pinning the rook on f7, so we'll win the exchange. Yeah, so e5 must be good. Alright, that's my choice, e5. Let's have a look. Yes, e5 played, d takes e5. Now, bishop e4 is my next move prepared. Bringing more pieces into the attack. Looks good. Yeah, yes, bishop to e4 looks very good. If he cannot take on d5 because of bishop takes d5, pinning the rook, and with bishop to e4 we prepare to take on e5 perhaps, and we have lots of pressure against g6. 3 pieces against g6. Must be good, right? Yeah, bishop e4, that's my next move. Let's have a look. He didn't. He takes on c6. What did black do? King to f8. Do we play now bishop to d5? Bishop d5? Is that an idea? No, of course not. He's unpinning now the pawn on g6, so he threatens to take on f5, so we need to do something with the rook on f5. Well, rook takes e5 is the most logical continuation then. Yeah, rook takes e5, then rook takes e5, queen takes e5, threatening to take on, no, to give a check on b8 and then capturing on b7 perhaps. Oh, it's even worse. It's a checkmate. So rook takes e5, rook takes e5, queen takes e5. The threat is queen to b8 with checkmate in the next move. After bishop d8, queen takes d8 is checkmate. Yeah, rook takes e5 is my next move. Alright, let's have a look. It is. Okay, what did black do? Rook takes. Well, now it's simple. Queen takes e5 must be the correct move. Let's see, if queen takes e5 and he plays bishop to c7, what happens then? We have queen to c5 check. Queen to c5 check. King moves to either g8 or e8, and then we can take on b7, and that must be a winning position, right? Queen takes e5, bishop c7. We can also play queen to e6, threatening queen to c8 check, and then capturing c7. Well, the next move is clear. Queen takes e5. Let's have a look. Yes. Answer by black. Yes. Bishop to c7. So now, queen to c5 check, king to g8. Then we can take on b7. We can also play rook to e3, threatening mate on e8. This is terrible for black. So queen to c5 looks winning. Queen to c5 check, king g8, rook e3. If rook takes f6, what happens then? What happens then? We can play bishop to d5 check then. Oh, this is complicated. This is complicated. Let's calculate. We need to calculate here before making a move. Queen to c5 check, king g8. If rook e3, rook takes f6, bishop d5 check. Where does he go? Where does he go then? Can he then go to h8? Then there is a check on e8. Yeah, if king to g7. Oh, this. Then the rook e7 check wins the queen, right? Yeah. So queen c5, king g8, rook e3, rook takes f6, bishop d5 check. He could play rook to f7, then this rook is pinned, so then we go back with the rook to f3, and after that, no, the bishop is on h5. But still, this cannot be good to rook f7, because we simply win that rook later. We can also take then on b7. Yes, I'll go for queen to c5. That's my move. Let's have a look at the game. Queen to e6, okay. Yeah, I forgot to examine that one. I saw that before. But, okay. The threat is, of course, to give a check on c8 with mate in the next move. So, okay, bishop to g4 played. Queen takes g4. Queen takes g4. If rook takes f6, then there is queen c8 check, and then wherever the king goes we take on c7 with a check. So queen takes g4, yes, winning. Okay, queen takes g4, yes, played in the game. What did black do now? He takes on f6, and now queen to c8 is winning. The king must go to the 7th rank, and then we take on c7 with a check, and we win a piece, and the c6 pawn is also winning. So queen to c8 check is my next move. It is. Yes, and black didn't make any move here, he resigned.